the only place something like this has been before. It is going to probably turn out to some type of campaign with the Department of Transportation, with the state.
Yeah.
It's a put on. But people, again, are taking it serious, and I get a kick out of it because I read that, and I got it exactly what the state, when they said that, they were telling it right in that little article from the state. Basically, if you read it right, it's a put on.
Right, and people, I am telling you, I've seen that in a couple groups, and I put the two pictures, but like you can see the difference. It's a cutout, and people are serious, boy. They get fighting mad, like this is real. This is the real thing. I'm like, do you see the two pictures compared? Like Bigfoot standing in mid stride for what, hours?
Oh yeah, for days actually. I mean, but that's the exciting part of when you really think about this. This is what the exciting part is of broadcasting. The whole point of doing talk radio is, interviewing people, finding out new things, finding things out about the paranormal, UFOs, time machines, whatever. That's the good part. And that's the fun part. But you can't be serious 5 nights a week. You just can't.
Because right. I agree.
Yeah. And Art, had a good sense of humor. It's kind of warped. You'd have to know Art. But, I knew about Mels Hole because he informed me about it, before it went broadcasting, what it was, his friend was in. It was really scripted. It was all kind of, it was interesting. And I tell you what, it's a classic, though. A classic Art Bell show. I know a lawyer here in Edmonds, Washington, that spent a whole day trying to find Mels Hole. He even wrote a song about Mels Hole because he was so excited about Mels Hole.
Right.
And when I told him the truth, he looked at me. He was sitting on my porch, and he looked at me. He goes, "No, it was real." I said, "Okay, well, now I know." Yeah, it was real. Sure, it was real. But people, bought it. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I will say this. Like Art Bell would say, it's entertainment. But here's the thing. That still is going on. That lives on today. Mels Hole, I am telling you, I still see, well put together links and post about Mels Hole, and it's like a fact. One of them things that they say fact of Mels Hole, and this is what happens. It's pretty much what you were telling about, but it still lives on.
Oh, it does. Now, the reason why I'm saying this, I got an email from a lady who said, "I am going back and listen to reruns of Art Bell because I thought you were like Art Bell, but you're not." And I read that, and I go, well, I never pretended to be Art Bell. I'm not Art Bell. I'm just Gary. I don't even do my show like Art Bell, but, I maybe have a soothing voice once in a while. But then she went as far as saying, well, last night, you were talking about people eating cats and dogs. You're disgusting. Now, I wasn't talking about people eating dogs and cats. We were talking about even eating lobster, live, eating fish live. Because what is going on in China right now, that virus, okay, that's what we were talking about, and it went into other things. If you eat things you shouldn't be eating, then you risk coming down with some type of disease. In this case, either it was from bats or from snakes or one of the two. This disease, a virus, is now mutating, and it has mutated into humans. It's spreading over the world. And that's what I was talking about last night. Wasn't that what we were talking about? She must not have caught that part.
Right. And then we were talking, it kind of morphed into a correlation between how aliens may see us as a food source, because we eat everything too, and it kind of morphed into all that. But yeah, we weren't condoning it, or we weren't saying, hey, I like this recipe best for my hot dogs or anything like that. No, we weren't doing that. We were just reporting what is going on and hypotheses of what could be going on.
Well, if you're eating animals, okay, that we shouldn't be eating raw fish alive, eating all these type of things, it's scary that, that we haven't came down with some virus. It could be unstoppable right now. They're saying in the news today, China hasn't been honest with us. How many people have been perishing from this virus? But it's a lot.
Yeah, I just reported on that. That lady's saying it's not 1,900, it's 90,000. Hello, that's crazy.
Well, something's going on when they decide they're going to build a hospital in a few days. And the picture of them sitting there with a whole kinds of, bulldozers and heavy equipment and, all these people to build a hospital, to hold all these people in a short time, a span, tells you that they're freaking out and they're scared. I would be scared because, as you get in the plane, if somebody has it, they figured this is caused by airborne. So if somebody gets it, it infects their lungs. It starts out like a cold, goes like into a flu, and then it gets really bad. And depending on your age and your immune system, it can kill you. Right.
And a lot like the American Legion kind of disease that came out because of the confined areas. If you're in a plane and it's airborne and it's through breathing, pretty much if there's 200 people on that plane, counting the pilot to the stewardess, to everybody on there, you've got a probably 90+% chance of picking it up or carrying it or both.
Yeah, well, now you're on the plane and somebody has it, so you go to Chicago on another plane, another person goes to San Francisco on another plane. Now they're infecting all these people. It could spread really fast, and it is.
Well, exactly, because here's the thing, Gary. When people get off those planes, they're interacting in an airport, especially Chicago and Atlanta. These are huge airports in L.A., so you're interacting with all those people. Then what do? Usually most people, they're either going to rent a car, take a cab, or take a bus, or a train or subway. So now it just multiplies more and more and more. I mean, you could probably vision just how fast, like taking a color eyedropper and dropping colored water into clear water, you can just see it spread.
Yeah. So I'm kind of nervous about that. Now, also in the news today, volcanoes are starting to erupt everywhere. Then we have that huge, earthquake. In Cuba?
Gary, where there's earthquakes, there's been in Washington, there's been...
Yeah, but this one's 7.9.
Yeah, Cuba, Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and they're talking
New
about
York.
A big wave, hitting, the United States from it.
Tsunami, yep. Yeah, there's been seismic activity it's on the rise, and it's more noticeable, and it's making the news more and more. Tennessee, all over the place, these earthquakes. And then, I think those act like catalysts, or vice versa. They feed off each other, maybe, to these volcano eruptions that's been going off. So you've got kind of both feeding each other, I think.
Yeah, then today in the news, they're talking about, guess what? That state park, Yellowstone.
Oh, yeah, the supervolcano.
They are getting concerned now because, the vegetation around it is dying. Trees are dying because of the heat. They are saying it's close to maybe going to the next stage, which we don't want that to happen.
No, because another thing that happens, it puts poisonous gas also in the soil. And like carbon monoxide and other gases, it's heavier than oxygen. So it hangs low. There was a whole village of 1,600 people wiped out in Africa at a 16-mile radius. Everything was dead, livestock and everything, overnight. And they couldn't figure out why. It was because of volcanic. It hangs so low, it doesn't dispense or goes away.
Disperse,
so,
yes.
You're dead. You're sleeping, you're dead, you don't even know it.
Yeah. Well, this is scary, too, because this won't be a 16-mile radius.
No.
This will be hundreds of miles radius. And then the effect is, if that goes off, you're not going to have planes running. I remember here when Mount St. Helens went. I tell you what, up around Longview, Kelso, all the way up to Cowlitz County, the rivers around there. I mean, there was so much ash. All you saw on the riverbanks is where they had to dredge it out afterwards was ash. The roads were covered. Up in Seattle, where I was living at the time, it looked like it was snowing. And my car was covered with ash everywhere, long distance away from Mount St. Helens. But it was scary that much ash was, falling. Could you imagine a supervolcano going off? It isn't going to be just a little ash. And the explosion is going to be, everybody in that state, including maybe Idaho and surrounding states, a majority of those people could perish just from the explosion.
Oh, absolutely. And again, depending on the wind, which usually goes west-east through that area, it's going to affect all those people in that path. And that's not healthy to breathe that stuff. It's going to kill a lot of people just by breathing it. And there's poisonous gases. And then you're probably going to have like what they call a nuclear winter, and that's going to affect crops, which spawns famine and diseases on top of that. So everything just kind of multiplies from that, and it's all bad.
Yeah, your car won't be able to run because it will suck in. That's another thing up in Seattle at the time. I remember it. The air filter, it plugged it up like in a day's time, and then I had to have to everything simmered down like for about 2 days before the eruption. It was dumping a lot of this ash, but I remember that the air filter would plug up solid and the car would just barely run.
Yeah, right. Plus, a lot of cars, especially older ones, they have to have oxygen to run, believe it or not. That's why a lot of vehicles have a hard time running like real high up in mountains because it's very little oxygen. So if there's very little oxygen in the air, you're going to have a hard time breathing. Your vehicles aren't going to want to run. Everything's going to start breaking down.
Yeah, well, don't forget your emission, your CO2 sensor and oxygen sensor in your car and all that stuff. It's going to get plugged up right away, and your car isn't going to run. That's the gloomy side, and I didn't want to get into it because we went from Mels Hole, to truck stories, ghosts and stuff like that to the supervolcano. But that's in the news today. So, I mean, I just wanted to touch it. I mean, but yet we're so concerned about building a wall, not thinking about a grid system enhancement to make sure in case we get a solar storm that we don't lose our power all across the country. But, we're so far in debt. We just broke the record even more than they said of being negative in this country. It's staggering the amount, which we were told that that wouldn't happen, but it has happened, and it's only going to get worse. You can't keep spending something. I remember the time my wife wanted me to give her money to go out and buy something, and I said, well, I don't have it, honey. Well, give it to me. I don't have it, but I want to go buy it. I said, I don't have it. Well, please. I said, I can't give you something I don't have.
Yeah,
and then it finally...
That's hard to do.
Yeah. That's the whole thing. Anyway, we're going to go on break and then the news, and then we're going to have our guest on. So we're going to have Bruce Maccabee on talking about, the FBI, the CIA, and UFO connection. So stay tuned. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio.
Maggot was a biker and drove his motorcycle very fast. Drove a big chop Harley with a gang color jacket and ran down citizens for laughs. He had an old lady named Petula who packed an automatic 45 gun. They had just come up from California where they'd shot 6 cops for fun. Jake, he thought it was the best there was. He's down the interstate he saw till the day he tangled with the county sheriff who they all called 104. It was late on a Thursday evening, and Jake, he was